Hello my lovelies, today I'm here to talk about the books that I read in August, of which I read 9 of those, and yeah, here are my thoughts. So the first book is called Worlds of Myths and Legends by Jacqueline Morley, and I had showcased this a little bit through, I think it was like the first summer reading challenge vlog that I'd done, but I didn't talk about my overall thoughts and feelings in that vlog because I wanted to save it. I was talking about so much books in those vlogs, I wanted to save some for the actual wrap up. So this one is talking about different myths and legends around the world, which is perfect for early readers, those that are interested in history, folklore and magic, as well as fables and stories with meaning as well. So I absolutely adored this one. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. These are the kind of books, just to reminisce, that I really devoured when I was growing up, and I was finding myself in the school libraries, in the public libraries, and yeah, it just kind of got me that thirst for knowledge and about different cultures, different legends, magic, and kind of just feeding that thirst for adventure and fun and intrigue. In this particular book, I really enjoyed how each myth and legend was kind of broken up. It sort of did it in a way that focused on different types of themes or type of beings, and the main focus overarching was kind of creation myths, and I just really enjoyed how seamlessly they all wove into similar individuals' stories, and how basically we're all connected because we all have a telling of like a great flood, a great fire, that sort of thing, and how it connects us as a people. The next 4 books are a little bit of a cop-out because I've already got reviews for them on the channel, or reviews in the making, so I'm going to end up talking a little bit about some TBR books just to bulk this video up a little bit. So following on from that, I read Now Conjurers by Freddie Kolsch, and again this has its dedicated review already in the channel, so I'll give you a brief synopsis and I'll leave the review to that video. So this is set in the Y2K period of time. It's the end of 1999, set in Massachusetts, and we are following Nesbit Nunez, who discovers the partially devoured body of Bastian Attia, all part of a coven, and there are relationships and friendships that are really entangled within this, so it really hits hard to discover Bastian in this way. We are quickly thrust into this murder mystery filled with magic, queer identity and relationships, and the very nostalgic kind of vibey scene of the Y2K era. Following on from there, I read and have reviewed already on the channel The Queer Girl Is Going to Be Okay by Dal Walls. This is one that I had been reading for quite a long time actually. I was on a book tour for it last year. I already did my post about the book and everything because mine was just about the favourite quotes, so I didn't have to have completed the whole book to talk about some quotes that I liked, but I was obviously wanting to finish it at some point, and I thankfully did, and I really enjoyed it. So again, I'll leave the full review for that video that's already up, but this is following Dawn and her 2 friends, Eddie and Georgia, and Dawn basically is desperate to find love. She wants to experience it how everybody else experiences it, and while she's on that quest, she is competing in a film and movie competition to hopefully get a scholarship in a very prestigious film and movie school. I keep saying film and movie, I mean film and media, and her participation of that is through queer love in a documentary setting called The Queer Girl Is Going to Be Okay. And yeah, it was fantastic. Lots of really detailed, realistic friendships and character studies. It was great. Fairy Tales Gone Bad, Creeping Beauty by Joseph Cahillo. This is one that I had read for the summer reading challenge vlog, and I think it might have been the second video that I talked about this one in. So this is actually the 3rd book in the series. This is the first book I've read from the series. They're all like random stories, like they follow different fairy tales, so you don't need to read them, I don't think, in a particular way. So this one of course follows our Sleeping Beauty character, but we're not actually following her, we're following a new set of characters. These are witches, and our main one is kind of the unlucky 13, and it's from her perspective in stopping a curse that's about to occur to our Creeping Beauty character. It's like a prophecy that's been foretold about what she'll end up doing to the land. And I really enjoyed this one. Yeah, it was great fun, and I'll probably go back at some point. If I see the books at the library, I would pick it up and give the others a go, but I think this one would probably be the one that I'd enjoy the most. Slade House by David Mitchell is a book that I am saving to talk about in a review, where I'm talking about some books that kind of center on the theme of time and time manipulation, generational kind of stories. I think that could be quite a cool thing to talk about, because this was quite a cool book. So again, I'll save my thoughts for that video and link it when it becomes available. Still got a couple of books yet to read for it, but just a little bit of a snippet for what it's about. Keep your eyes peeled for a small black iron door. Down the road from a working class British pub, along the brick wall of a narrow alley, if the conditions are exactly right, you'll find the entrance to Slade House. A stranger will greet you by name and invite you inside. At first you won't want to leave. Later you'll find that you can't. It is so eerie and just speculative in nature, and incredibly thought-provoking. It's horror in some aspects, fantasy in others. It was amazing, but let me not get ahead of myself, and I'll save that for another video. Finally, a book that I'm going to actually talk about in depth. This is Crater Lake Evolution, and this is the second book from the Crater Lake series by Jennifer Killick. I read the first one not too long before picking this one up, so it was kind of like a close back-to-back reading almost. So it's kind of like their own contained stories, I would say, but there's elements of book one that carry through book two, but I wouldn't really say the synopsis spoils anything major for you, so I'll read that and I'll kind of try and get into my thoughts without pointing at too many spoilers. It's been 5 months since the nightmare year 6 school trip to Crater Lake, and something has gone very wrong in Lance's hometown of Straybridge. There's been an explosion at the university, a mysterious test creature is missing, and no one is allowed in or out of town. On top of this, Lance has lost touch with his friends since starting his new school, and now his mum has been acting strangely since they started decorating the Christmas tree. He goes door to door trying to reunite his team. Lance realises how badly things have gone. Now he, Katja, Max, Chet and Addie, plus new friend Karim, must think bigger and bolder if they're to save their families, but there's something else out there too. Something straight out of their nightmares. I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5 stars, and it was kind of weird reading it because I feel like I almost should have saved it for a winter read, a Christmassy read. I went in not really reading the back initially, so I didn't know that it was going to be centered around Christmas time, but I was reading it in the heart of summer. It was hot, but to be honest, it wasn't too bad. It didn't throw me out of the story, you know, being physically sweltering, reading about cold things. If anything, it helped me psychologically because I was too hot, so that was kind of like a nice breeze for the brain, you know. But in terms of like the Christmassy vibes, that just didn't hit as much as if I was to read it during Christmas time. Do you know what I mean? But regardless of that, it was so much fun being back involved with all of these characters as well as our new character. I was a little bit disgruntled with us opening up with all our characters like not being friends anymore, and 6 months had passed. The 6 months thing didn't bother me too much because it's not a massive time jump, but so much had changed. And I guess that's like to be expected when you all go off to new schools, and falling outs are bound to happen. But I was just like, and I know that was part of the plot and the kind of gentle unfolding of how they came to this, but also kind of working through their troubles to reunite really, and kind of sort out the issues that was going on at home and like in the town. That was obviously a major point of like, you know, you can put your differences aside, you can talk through them and still help each other and be there for each other at the end of the day. But I was still like, damn, they've changed like a lot from the previous book, which I literally just read. Do you know what I mean? But that's a me thing, I think. Definitely was a good example of how personalities and individualities expand and grow as you grow as a person, especially at that crucial time of transition between, you know, year 6 to year 7. You're going to, you know, being the oldest of your little school to being the youngest, probably smallest of a massive school. And it's daunting and a lot happens, you know, behavioural, physically, mentally, so much happens to you, and I think that did capture it really well. So it would probably resonate with a lot of younger readers too. Following that, I read Losing the Plot by Derek Osu, and this is kind of like a reimagining of Derek's mum's journey to England. He kind of expands on information that he does know, which is very limited because his mum does appear to be very closed off in her business, you know, which is fair enough. And so he kind of fabricates this idea of what it was like to travel all the way to a country that she'd never visited before on her own, so young. And yeah, it was really intriguing. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars just because I found the content to be stellar, and I really enjoyed like the crafting of a story around his mother trying to piece together bits and pieces of like little Easter eggs that she dropped without going into too much depth, and him trying to weave together this possible narrative. But I struggled with the format that it was delivered. So I'm going to try and describe these as 2 separate entities, right? So in terms of content, I loved that the reimagining of our author's mother's early years was so enriched, almost as if we could have been a fly on the wall, you know. And all of this is stuff that maybe didn't even happen, you know, but the way our author kind of curated it, it felt like he was there, and he wasn't even born yet for most of this journey, most of the story, you know. So I really liked that play on storytelling and generational tales. And I really thought it was creative how, you know, the whole theme of it was being inspired by his mother's journey from Ghana to England, and what that might have looked like yet from the eyes of a child that wasn't yet in existence, you know, wasn't even a thought. So that to me was absolutely mind-blowing. What a cool concept. The format, the prose was a bit too florally for me to fully digest what was being said, so much so that I had to keep rereading lots of passages numerous times to kind of translate in my head what it was saying in simple terms. And even then, I don't think the details sunk in as much as they could have. In contrast to this, it's the piece is dotted throughout with footnotes, but the footnotes themselves, both in tone, like in format, they're written completely different to the florally main text, and also in content, what they're talking about, which seems mostly different to what the footnote was being referred to in the passage, was just completely disjointed. It just threw me out because I didn't know what was going on. It was like there was 2 stories working at the same time, and if that was the case, cool, that's pretty creative, pretty unique, but it just left me very confused. So yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. Great content in terms of the idea, the storytelling, the, you know, the goal of crafting this story of his mother's early life with just snippets of information. But in terms of delivery, it left me very confused. Okay, last 2 books now to talk about. The second to last one is St. Juniper's Folly by Alex Crespo, and this is described as Cemetery Boys meets The Haunting of Bly Manor, and it is a debut. So we are following 3 main characters. We've got Jamie, Theo and Taylor, and the story is centered around queer characters, a haunted house mystery, celebration of found family, and paranormal romance. So again, we've got Jamie, Theo and Taylor, and Jamie has just moved back into this tiny Vermont town. He is returning to a past that he spent 8 years trying to forget after shuttling between foster home to foster home, hoping that he can make a fresh start in his life. But every gossip in town already knows his business, already knows his past, and it's almost like it feels like the world's working against him, when he's really just trying to grow and become who he wants to be, you know. So he seeks out solitude in the nearby woods, and he doesn't return. Next up, we have Theo, who has always lived in St. Juniper, and he is feeling trapped, he's feeling stuck, and he knows that there's more out there, which kind of makes it even worse because he's just got this itch to go and explore, but he's scared to go and find it. He's definitely feeling stifled within himself and his own identity, and he knows there's some conversations that needs to be had within himself and maybe more outwardly as well, but he's just kind of hoping to keep his head down and sail through it for his last senior year, hoping that something better's can come along and allow him to be who he needs to be. That is until he wanders into the folly and stumbles on a haunted house that has Jamie stuck inside, quite literally. And then of course we've got Taylor, who to her St. Juniper is a mystery. The surrounding woods speak to her while she tries and fails to practice the magic her dad had banned from the house since her mother tragically died. Taylor can't seem to break out of her spiral of grief till a wide-eyed teenager barges into her life, rambling on about a haunted house, a trapped boy and ghosts. He's telling her that he needs a witch and he needs her now. It says at the end here, the folly and its ghosts will bring these three teenagers together, but they will each have to face their own internal struggles in order to forge a bond strong enough to escape the folly's shadows. For St. Juniper's Folly, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I felt like this was a fantastic story of second chances, magic and hauntings, as well as fantastic character studies and writing from a new-to-me author that I'll be sure to keep an eye on. This queer YA fantasy was an absolutely addictive and Moorish read, with Jamie, Theo and Taylor being an amazing cast of main characters I couldn't help rooting for. One thing that I really enjoyed about this was the aspect of found family, and how even though our trio was kind of thrust together and they maybe necessarily wouldn't have crossed paths naturally, you could see that as they began talking more outside of the conundrum that they'd found themselves in, they definitely had a lot of things that they had in common, and you know, just values and morals that they could appreciate within each other. And it was just so beautiful to see relationships, friendships just grow and blossom. The haunted house theme had way more depth than I was expecting it to have. Definitely gave me Haunting of Bly Manor vibes, but I can't necessarily say the same for the other vibe, which was Cemetery Boys, as I've yet to read that book. I think my one critique of the book would probably have to be that I wish we had more overview of the townspeople, because we could have had like a better example of how close-minded and in your business these people were, because especially from Theo, we had a lot of conversations or internal conversations about how much he felt like he couldn't be his true self and he couldn't explore and get out of the town because he felt so stagnant, and that everybody was up in your business and knowing everything about you. And that as well was in turn with Jamie, because Jamie, as soon as he came back to town after 8 years, everybody still knew everything about him and he couldn't have that fresh start that he was after. But I feel like with that aspect, it was more told instead of shown. Like, it would have been good, I think, to have a couple of like passerby busybody characters kind of sticking their nose in, just to properly bring that fact up, right up into your face. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise it kind of left some of the worries that our main characters had to fall flat for me. Other than that, this was an absolutely stunning debut novel. Absolutely adored it and will definitely be keeping an eye on this author. Okay, and the last book that I read during August was Waking the Witch by Rachel Burge. I do not have the book to hand right now, but I have spoken about it in far more detail. I've basically wrapped it up and reviewed it in my previous summer reading challenge vlog, which is weeks 5 to 6. So it's the 3rd vlog up if you are interested in checking that out. So for now, I will just leave you with a synopsis, which is we are following our main character Ivy, who is looking for her birth mother, and that looking takes her to a Welsh isle. Here she uncovers a dark secret about her past, and as she's trying to rekindle relationships between her mother, awful tragedy befalls and magic ignites within her and externally, and she is basically becoming aware that an ancient and corrupt evil is stalking Ivy, and that's the whole reason why she has kind of been thrust into this isolated life with no family around her, away from growing up of what she would have known. So yeah, it's following quite closely to Welsh mythology, particularly pertaining to the Arthurian legends, and I really enjoyed this. It was so much fun. It wasn't what I was expecting it to be, but I came out of it absolutely adoring it. So if you do want to learn a little bit more about how I enjoyed it, definitely check out that reading vlog. But that is it for the wrap up portion. I thought whilst I'm here and I have your attention, I'll quickly flick through some of the books that I'm hoping to get to. These couple of ones here are just library books. It's kind of going to be my focus, I think, for September. I'm going to put the other books mainly that was on my TBR, the original books that was on my summer reading list, on the back burner, apart from the one that I'm currently reading. So let's start with the one I'm currently reading. I am currently still filming the last vlog because I sort of did some weird calculation. Basically, the reading challenge doesn't finish until the 7th of September, and I'm currently still filming in that week period, so I'm going to see how much of this one I can finish up. This is A Storm of Sisters by Michelle Harrison, and it is the 4th book in the A Pinch of Magic adventure, and I absolutely love these books. I'm really enjoying this particular installment. They're about a group of sisters, or a trio of sisters, that have a little inkling, a little pinch of magic, and they're getting up to mischief and adventures, and it's just fantastic. So yeah, this is the 4th and most current installment in that series. And then the next ones I've spoken about in quite a bit of detail already. 2 of these are actually in my 5-star predictions, so it would be good to get to them this month so that I can share my thoughts about them, because I've already shared my thoughts about the other 2 books in, I think, a wrap up, and I think in a vlog that I was doing as well. So it'd be good to just kind of wrap these up and maybe do another 5-star predictions. So I won't tell you too much about them, I'll just show you the covers quickly. This is Radical Love by Neil Blackmore, and it's inspired by kind of like true events within the gay scene. And then there is The Bleeding by Joanna Gustafson, and this is kind of like a generational story. It seems like it might have some magical realism in there, some black magic, maybe occult witchcraft dotted in there too, and it's following kind of 3 time periods and 3 women. And then lastly, I have Begone the Raggedy Witches by Celine Kiernan, and this one seems like it is another kind of story, sort of similar in tone a little bit to Waking the Witch that I just spoke about, because our main character's mum has been missing, and her search has taken her to these kind of secluded dark woods, which turns out to have like an infestation of witches, and she's learning some sort of secrets about her past. And yeah, it sounds really intriguing. If it's anything similar to Waking the Witch, I'm probably gonna love it. And I've got the sequel here that I finally found, because I ended up, when I first got these out, picking up book 1 and book 3 thinking they were the sequel, but yeah, I found the second one anyway. So those are the books that I'm hoping to get read during September. I'm going to keep it nice and chill. I've got a couple of weeks off because I am turning 28, so I have my birthday on the 13th of September, and yeah, I'm hoping to do a lot of reading, but a lot of casual reading, so nothing particularly what's the word, needing my attention. I don't have any book tours planned or anything like that, so yeah, purely reading for pleasure, which is what I do anyway, even with book tours, but I don't have any like obligations at the moment. So yeah, I'm hoping to get a lot of those read. And I say that, but I find that when I'm off at home with my other half, when we're both off, I read less because he's around and we're doing things, we're going out. It's when I'm going to work and stuff, I'm physically finding time to read. Do you know what I mean? So we should see how that actually goes, but that's the plan anyway. So with that all being said, I shall thank you very much for watching today's video. Let me know what you've been reading during August. If you had a favourite book, I'd love to know. If you have any recommendations, of course, I would also love to know. But for now, thank you again for watching. I shall catch you in another video soon. Bye.